Also, a lot of other guys came through these doors. Sheamus?
Sheamus, yeah.
What are your memories of
My memories of him were he was like a new kid on the playground, like coming from where he came from. And I've never been there, so I'm only going by what he told me. But just the things like the size of an apple or the size of a grapefruit was totally amazing to him because they don't have food like that over there. You know, us in this country, we have an abundance of food and people don't appreciate it. You know what I'm saying? But that's the first thing that got him was like, oh my God, look at all this good food I'm going to be able to eat.
What year was this?
I don't remember.
Okay. Anything else stand out with Sheamus?
Not really. He was just a regular guy.
So you had a good working relationship with WWE at this time, and you still to this day.
As far as I know,
Yeah.
I mean, you know.
Would you help get the guys a foot in the door?
Right now?
Yeah, I mean, like Sheamus. I mean, how did he get hooked up with WWE?
Well, he went back to England, and they saw him training over there, and they hired him out of England.
Okay. Also, Virgil. Early memories of Virgil.
Yeah. Virgil was a good guy. He just dumb and didn't want to listen. And as a result of not doing what I told him, you know, because he didn't want to hear what I had to tell him for his own good. He ended up with Fonseca, you know, and I don't know what they told him, but he was happier up there. And, you know, him and I are on a fine grounds, you know, we have no animosity or any problems like that.
D'Lo Brown, he also came through these doors.
Yep.
Good guy.
Owes me $1,000.
Does he?
Yep.
Huh.
So he's a piece of shit in my book.
Why does he owe you money? Just
because he didn't finish paying for his school.
Wow. Okay. Other guys that come through the doors of the Matcha Factory.
And let me just expand on that a little bit.
Definitely.
It's different if a guy don't make it. You know, I can understand him. You know, like I know Larry went to the school, blah, blah, blah. He made it. Okay? Never let out any credits, anything. And just stiff me for the money. And I will not forget that. And he'll pay one day.
As far as other guys that come through the doors of the Matcha Factory, take us through what you train at the Matcha Factory. What are some important lessons that you teach the guys that you've learned?
Keep your mouth shut in the locker room. Watch what everybody else does and stick to the basics. Don't worry about getting up on the top rope and jumping the fuck off because of somebody you've seen on television. Stay in the ring, on the mat, and learn the basics. You'll get to the top rope eventually.
What about a very important lesson in the business of ring etiquette? What are some of your lessons as far as that goes?
Well, you're always courteous to the fans. You always stay in the ring. You don't need to ever touch a fan or go out there and make any contact with a fan. It's no good for you. It's no good for the wrestler. It's no good for the fan. You know, it's cheap heat, you know, if you want to go out and do that. But if you can't get heat by staying in the ring, then I've done something wrong in my training because they should know how to get good heat in the ring without going outside.
How long before, you let guys work? Just until you see...
when they're ready.
Right.
You know, if a guy's here 3 weeks and he's ready, you know, he's ready.
Okay.
Other guys can be here 6 months and it's like, oh my God, I finally got to give this guy a match. But
right. How different has the business changed from your days in it?
Well, nobody has to pay their dues. I mean, you know, do they pay me? Yes. But it's not like paying your dues.
Right. You just, pretty much get called up.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's talk about promos. Today, the business has changed so much. Back in the 70s and 80s, guys were getting booked based on, being able to work in the ring. And today, like we were just talking about, guys don't pay their dues if they can cut a promo, and it's a lot of, less mat wrestling and more high spots. What are your thoughts on all of that?
Well, just to back up for a second, they were also wrestling because they got of who they know, not so much as talent. But, like I said, Gino Morella had a fondness for Puerto Rican guys, and they were all nice guys, but half of them couldn't work. I mean, I guess that's part of the reason I learned how to work is going out there and carrying somebody that didn't know what the hell they were doing and figuring it out, listening to the crowd and trying to get a response.
Okay.
So, it was a struggle like that sometimes.
You also ran a lot of shows, and you formed a partnership with Dennis Coralluzzo in the 80s, and you ran under the banner, I believe, WWA.
Yes.
What are your memories of working with Dennis?
Dennis was always exciting. His biggest problem was that he was his biggest fan.
Right.
And there's nothing wrong with that. But, we had a show at the Woodbury Armory one time, and it was sold out. Totally sold out in advance. And he calls me up and goes, "Guess what, man?" I'm like, "What?" He goes, "I got Terry Funk on the card." I'm like, "The fuck did you get him for? That's $1,000 airfare both ways to Texas in a hotel room. The fuck I need him like I need a little dick." Jesus Christ. And that stuff would piss me off. I mean, he was a nice guy, but...
Was he the money guy, or was he just... you were obviously the money guy, right?
Well, I would say, no, he was the license guy, because back then you had to be licensed and all that stuff, and he was an insurance guy. Right. So he took care of all the paperwork and licenses for the wrestlers and stuff like that, which I could have got done, but a wrestler don't want to do that stuff.
Exactly. So as far as like running shows, you had some really classic matches, I believe. Were you involved in the company when Benoit came here for the first time? He worked Sabu. I think it was Woodbury too.
Yeah.
What are your early memories of?
It was, we didn't need him.
Right.
But he wanted to see Benoit versus Sabu. So it was like he was booking his own TV program. This is what I want to see. This is what we'll put on the card. And we're making money. You want to be a little bit easy to get along with, but we didn't need him.
Right. Bob Backlund also came out of retirement. He worked the show for you guys.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a big deal back, I guess that was the late 80s, maybe early 90s.
Well, Dennis, he liked to be like a big-time promoter, but there was guys like Backlund that wasn't going to work for anybody. But since him and I were pretty good, I'm like, "Yo, Bob, you want to do me a favor? Come on down." And he came down for me.
Who did he work? I forgot. Was it...
no, I don't remember.
Yeah, I don't remember either.
And we had the Bushwhackers. That was a big deal.
Right. Early memories of Sabu.
I'm not nuts over his style. He's very good at what he does, so misunderstand me. But again, if you can't stay in between the ropes and hold the crowd's attention, you don't have to take out a chainsaw and slice the top of your fucking head off, to get people's attention.
How many years did you and Dennis have a relationship for?
I would say 10 or 12 years.
10 or 12 years?
Yeah.
Okay. What was your fondest memory of your run with Dennis? Besides drinking iced tea with him.
Him having a fantasy of sleeping with this girl that used to hang around. And I don't want to mention her name because she's still around. But oh my God, he was just consumed with... No, it wasn't Kathy. But he might have had one with her too.
Right.
But he was just consumed with this female. And she was nothing special, like... Dennis, you got to stay with your eye on the prize,
Right. You had some other really good, successful shows. Jerry Lawler came in, worked for you guys too.
Mm-hmm.
Out of all the shows, which one was your biggest?
I would say that if I had to pick one, it'd be Rumble on the River.
Okay. Was your idea pretty much just to run, spot shows here and there, and you never branch out and get bigger? You just want to
when you start branching out, back then, everybody was going to put Vince McMahon out of business. Okay. Yeah, well, we're going to do this and we'll run Vince out of business. Well, I never had those aspirations. My job was to have money left over at the end of the night. And if it was once a month, it was fine. If it was 4 times a month, it was fine. But it was a good quality show. Let's have money left over. And if we don't need the fucking big names or the glamour and the glitz and all that stuff, stay away from it. And one thing that I've been able to develop here is we have our own little group of guys that are as big as stars that come. There's a little girl here that's absolutely beside herself over Tommy Macklin. She's going to be crushed when he goes to the WWE because that's her guy and he's going to be out of here.
Right.
She sits there and cries. I mean, Dan did something the other day and made him wouldn't let him wrestle because he had a shoulder injury. And she just bawled her eyes out, man. You know, the fans here are into it. They've developed relationships with the personalities, and that's how it used to be. Now they just come and go.
All right. We'll talk about that coming up. I want to talk about Dennis. One last thing with Dennis. What led to the split between you guys?
Creative differences.
Okay.
I wanted to keep it simple.
Right. Did you guys stay on good terms, or was it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
What when you found about his passing? Did that hit you pretty hard, or?
Well, when somebody dies that's 10 years younger than you, you know, it always hits you a little bit. But he was always very anxious, and he was always like looking over his shoulder because he thought he was conning people, but he wasn't. You know, he was doing the right thing all the time, but he had set it up in his mind like he had wheeled and dealed to get something that all you had to do was do it the right way, and you got it anyway, or I wouldn't have been his partner.
Right.
You know, but I liked it. He was in this little fantasy world, and that was fine with me.
Okay. What do you remember of Joel Goodhart and the Philly Wars?
I talked to Joel about 6 months ago, I guess. And, you know, he had the typical promoter's ego, and I kind of feel bad for him in a way. You know, he's always doing now is selling insurance, and he's doing very well at it. But, I mean, you know, Todd Gordon's out of the picture, and then, you know, you see what that ECW going to the WWE, you know, how big it's become. And I'm sure that's got to hurt, whether he says so or not.
Yeah, definitely.
Watch thousands of exclusive shoot interviews right now on TitleMatchNetwork.com.